parents, you know,
Oh.
Go
Sorry.
ahead.
with parents struggling with, you know, debating if they want to send their kids or keep them home, or and even jobs, you know. I'm trying to think.
That's the
But I think it's gotten, well, we're early Head Start. So we don't have our Head Start classroom here at this location at Lilly. And it's a smaller center. We're kind of, we see each other more versus like Maywood. Maywood's is like a class, like a school setting versus our setting.
and we
So
all
we
interact.
all interact with each other, kids, we help each other.
The kids in the baby room know the kids
Yeah.
that are in the oldest
Yeah.
classroom. They
Yeah, it's kind of a tight knit. We all know each other. Like
Mhm.
Stephanie said, the kids know us and we know them. Same with parents too. And it's been better because at first with the pandemic, we couldn't see the parents. The parents dropped off at the door and we couldn't have that interaction. I kind of missed that interaction with the parents, greeting them and talking to them. And then when they stopped that, I was kind of like, yay for that they could come in the building, come in the room,
Mhm.
and be able to, you know, have them, you know, talk to us and us talk to them. Because, you know, I don't know how much, you know, interaction adults they have. Because I have a good relationship with my families. That's one thing I strive on, is building that relationship with them, and then and with their child too.
and even with like the parents, if the kids are having a bad day, they'll let us know. And if the kids are having a bad day here, it's like, okay, what's going on at home that's different? And they're comfortable with us that they'll tell us. So it's a good interaction.
Yeah, Stephanie. So how, again, in teacher education, we don't have a lot of discussion or preparation about, how to deal effectively with parents. But it sounds like that's kind of a prominent element of your experience. So I'm just curious how you cultivated your ability to interact effectively and learn from parents and get information from them and just share whatever was important related to helping the child have, a good day that day.
Usually we kind of start off by kind of just introducing ourselves, and then every day saying, hi, how are you doing? And then how's so-and-so at home, or like even in the baby room, asking them how like what foods they're starting to eat, and it kind of builds off from there. So then if we're interacting with them every day, they kind of get really comfortable with us after a while.
Sarah, Stephanie, or Janelle, anyone can speak to this about kind of the orientation process and the home visits, and how those our home visits and conference are kind of an important part of what you do in your relationship building as well.
Like the orientation, the family worker, well, we have shutdown week, and so we try to piggyback with the family worker for orientation, where the parent comes in and visit with the family worker because they have forms, and we have our assessment tools that we have the parents fill out. And then if we can't get with the family worker, if it doesn't work out, we as teachers on our own try to set a time during that shutdown week. And we've had, this year we were back to having our open house, so families could come into the building, the centers, and meet the teachers, and then just kind of look around. And then it may not be a good time for us to do our assessments with them, or it's just for them to come in and just kind of look around. And then we have like our 45 days where we have assessments that we need to fill out. And also like with the nurses and stuff, they have like, there's like 45-day screens. And then in the process of that, that everyday contact with the families, we always have an opportunity to ask questions. And then I haven't done a home, and then we meet with them 4 times a year. So we have like a fall, because we do our gold assessment. And then I haven't gone in the home yet because it just hasn't worked out. But the parents are more than welcome, or more than happy to meet with me in the center, where we'll sit down and go over their ASQ, their ASQ, SE, and then their checkpoint for fall. And then our family workers involved with that too. We haven't had, our family worker is the supervisor of the family worker, so it's been kind of a weird, the last couple of years has just kind of been, but we've managed, kind of, it's flowed really well. There, in between that, if there's any time a parent has it, I always have an open door policy. If a parent has any questions or concerns, they're more than freely to come in. I've tried to, sometimes it doesn't work for the parents to come in and visit the room and kind of, hang out and see what we do. They can always call. Text messaging really helps for us to communicate with families versus calling, because sometimes they don't answer the phone. But if I send a text message, likely they're to respond back to me.
It's always nice when we did get to go into the room.
Yeah,
Or
into
their
their
home.
homes, because then you kind of, you learn a lot, of how
Why
a
this kid is-
yeah, why this child is, I'm trying to think of the words. How they are, yeah, and then just their family, it's just, and how they do things and how their routine is, because we're routine here, and sometimes their routine and our routine don't really coincide, but yeah, it's.
How does your communication, change with the parents? Because it's kind of fascinating to think about. You get kids as early as infants, and so the nature of your conversation with the parents, like you alluded to, it's about, okay, what are they eating, what do they like? Because again, the parents are learning right along with you.
Yeah.
And then later on, as whether it's social emotional learning or whatever, academic issues, alphabet, whatever, kids are starting to learn more academic sorts of things. So how does that conversation or communication with the parents evolve to where you're beginning at one stage of the kid's development, and then as they get older, the communication changes? And how do you make those adjustments when your communication with the parents?
I would like to speak.
Okay,
on
I was gonna say it would be easier for you, because I deal with.
I was like,
nonverbal.
I'll mention this one. Okay. So I know without face-to-face, and I know I want to piggyback on the 2020 because it was kind of hard to have that communication and build the relationships with families. Social media helped a lot with that.
Oh, really?
Because I
Okay.
feel like when we were doing our open houses and we were coming back, we couldn't have the parents come in. They actually showed videos of our classrooms in the buildings, and they got to meet us through video.
On Facebook?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Good.
It was Maywood had a Facebook, Lily had a Facebook, and they showed that center. They kind of showed our classrooms, and they showed the teachers on there and stuff, which I think was helping so parents could actually see the buildings, even though they weren't allowed to come in during that year. As that got better, thankfully, I've learned to adjust with using certain things. Like they said, text messaging works great. I actually use an app to communicate with my parents, which is awesome. It's Class Dojo. I don't know if anyone heard of it.
Yeah, they have that in Waterloo School. So
that's where I learned it from.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I've loved it since I've seen it there, and I use it in my own classroom, and I also use it for classroom management. So it just works both ways. I like that the parents like to communicate. I can share pictures, videos. I tell them each week what we're doing. I send pictures of what we're doing. If they have questions, they can always send me messages. It's definitely helped me build better relationships with my families that way. And I'm very big on relationships too. So it does help with that. But yeah, I think having those kind of resources has started to help with that. And this is the first year I think all of my parents are signed up, and they all write me back. They all communicate with me. They're all on the same page this year. They even have extra parents or relatives that they add on there that
Really?
they
Okay.
can see everything that's going on.
That's good. That's good. Students, do you have any questions so far of the teachers? I have another question then. It's also fascinating, like you said, in the now Sarah, Stephanie, you're a Lily. Is that where you are?
Mhm.
So you say you kind of have like one big room where you have the infants and the older ones kind of all together. And so I'm fascinated. How do you say like the older ones are like they all know each other? So do the, let's say, 2 and 3 year olds kind of interact with the younger ones to try to teach or anything like that?
Yeah, we have 4 classrooms and it's kind of
Uh-huh.
like, we have like this big, well, it's not big, but it's a big room. It's an open
Uh-huh.
area in the middle of the building. And then there's like 4 classrooms kind of surrounding that. So we're all within really short walking distance of each other.
Mm-hmm.
So then we have different times where, like in the morning, we all start off our day there, and they ate like they kids, because we're a rap center, so we open at 6:30, we close at 5:30. So we had different age groups.
What does
that
that
arrive.
mean, rap center?
Rap center is for families who have a job. They're not strictly like your traditional Head Start, was just like 6 hours. They're there from 8:30.
Oh, okay.
3. So we are open from 6:30 to 5:30. So if a family has to work at 7, they can drop off at 6:30.
Oh,
Or if
okay.
they'll be there till 9, they can drop off at 8:30. So it's kind of like a before and after school program type thing.
Mhm.
So like in the morning, we'll have different age groups that we are in the big room. And so, but from where our center, the big room is, you could see pretty much all the classrooms from
Mhm.
right there. So that's how we can all, get to know each other and see other families. And we have siblings too that are in one classroom and then another classroom.
Mhm.
And it kind of works out too, because like it's say I have a kid in my classroom and they move up to the next room, and we're so small that they already know the teachers that are going to be their teachers next year because we interact anyway with them. So.
So I remember when my our younger kids went to a child development center. This is on the East Coast. It's almost like no matter what age, they had their kind of role. You had remember walking in the room, and the ones who are just crawling, they're crawling, they're looking in the window and they're checking things out, and then they're talking to, they're trying to talk with the other kids or older, so because again, that's social interaction. So I was just curious, as to you have all these different developmental levels kind of together. So I was wondering how that actually assists in the learning experience for some of the students.
I know we do have like little bikes. So like our 1-year-old will go and sit on the bike, and then our 3-year-old will push him around.
Oh,
Or
okay. All right.
the other way around, the
Uh-huh.
3-year-old will sit down and the 1-year-old will push him. So and they'll always go be like, come here, and they always want to go and do it.
Mhm.
And I was gonna say, in my room, what being with the Head Start is totally different from the early Head Start. I kind of miss the little kids, but I like the big kids too. But in my room, it's the set time. So my classroom is open from 8:30 to 3:30 to 3, sorry, 8:30 to 3. And so it's like school hours. So we have a set schedule. But I have 3-year-olds up to 5-year-olds in my classroom, and it's a good range in that age. And mind
Oh,
you,
yeah.
3-year-olds are totally different from
Uh-huh.
4-year-old and a 5-year-old. So what I've noticed recently, at first I didn't like it, I'm not gonna lie, with the 3-year-olds being in there with 4 and 5-year-olds. But it actually helps the 3-year-olds to have those 4 and 5-year-olds in there, because they like to help them do things. So I think
4 and
that
5-year-olds like to help the 3-year-old.
yeah, they
Oh,
like
okay, all right.
they like to partner up, they like to help them out, they like to help, they like jobs, they like to do things for the other ones. And I like to see that. And it kind of happens on its own with all of them in there. They don't even know their ages. They're like, oh, like 3-year-olds especially, they're like, oh, I want to play with him, he's older. But you cannot see them pair up like that. And it's kind of cool to see, because you get to see what they're learning from each other. And the older ones are very good at teaching the little ones certain things that they don't know. So it does help everybody in the classroom.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Because I don't know if you've heard the program Hip Hop Literacy, and it started off like 3rd grade through 8th grade, but then when our son turned 5, he was adamant he was going to be in the program. And so he and his age group friends joined the program. And then the older kids, were in 8th grade and they turned 9th grade. They didn't want to leave the program. So we ended up, having this 1st through 9th grade program all of a sudden. And so we put the younger kids, the 1st graders, with the high school kids, and it actually worked out great because the high school kids, they were cool to the younger kids, and so they saw them as mentors and teachers, and they actually, without us even telling them to do so, they automatically started teaching the younger kids, and the younger kids are paying more attention to the high school kids than they were even the college student teachers in the program, because they wanted to be cool with these older high school kids. And so that's something, I think, is, kind of a benefit of a mixed age in, learning environment, because kids have a way of relating to each other in an interesting way. So I hadn't really known that. So that's a great benefit, from the Head Start environment. What have been your, what you say is your kind of biggest, everybody just share a success story that kind of stands out in your mind and how you feel that happened, especially, given the pandemic and all the challenges that you've had to face. I'm sure you have a lot of those horror stories and people tend to want to focus on those, but what are some success stories that stand out for you as teachers?
Well, one of my parents, last year, she was in the LPN program and she graduated doing that. She has an older, like a 12-year-old son, and then her daughter is 2 in my room. And I had her last year and this year. And then when she told me that, I was like, yay, congratulations. And then she's continuing on for her RN degree, and she'll have that in May.
Wow.
And she's also working too. So I was just like, not most of our families, they go to school, but they're not necessarily complete. They're mainly working families. Or they'll start in school and then they won't continue, and then work and enroll in school and not continue. But I was just I kept praising her. I just, every once in a while I'd be like, you know what, Desiree, nice job. You're doing good. Keep it up. And, you're gonna, I think she said she's got like, I don't know, 8 more weeks or 10 more weeks left, and then she's done. So I was like, hey, kudos to you. I know there's times for her where she's stressed, but it's like, hey, you made it this far. With that RN degree, I was like, woo-hoo.
Yeah. And that's so important to be, and, we hear success, we automatically think the kids from where, from our perspective, but here you get a chance to see the family success stories. And I'll never forget, my mother was really big on, well, both my parents actually were really big on helping parents realize the importance of their education and its impact on their children. And so I'll never forget, there was a lady who attended a church I attended on the East Coast, and through a lot, not necessarily my encouragement, but a lot of people encouraging her. She, always wanted to talk about finishing high school. She didn't finish high school. And so she, for whatever reason, as her daughter got close to finishing high school, then she wanted, to do it. And so she started off, I think her daughter might have been a sophomore, and she hung in there, and they both graduated from high school together side by side, and so again, I think for people who are in education to have an impact, I think what your, kind of your environment is a really great environment, because your impact can be that much, bigger, because you're not just working only with the kids. You see the family development, you see, parents getting education, parents getting jobs, or striving to get jobs to improve their family situation. And you can kind of witness all of that and encourage all of those positive things. So that's a great example. Thank you. What are some other success stories?
I guess okay. I was like, I guess I'll share one. It's just one that sticks out to me. I'm going to start off with saying last year was a little rough. It was right after everything. I felt like we got to see a lot more behaviors last year, and it was a lot of changes and moving around last year. So I was in the same classroom, but there was a lot of students being moved around because of behaviors. And we had a few in our room who had very high behaviors to the point where it was like physical altercations and people were getting hurt.
Mm.
It was a very, it was a 5-year-old girl in particular that I'm talking about. She would have very big, and she was tall, which made it even like
Oh,
like
okay.
it made it bigger because she was the biggest kid in the classroom. She would climb on top of desks, on chairs, tables. She would throw things, and her scream was a very high pitched scream.
Mm.
So at first we were like trying to figure out why it was happening, of course. So I was trying to figure out basically like what is it that is triggering her. She was a very smart girl. I actually thought like she was very advanced, and I felt like she might have been bored.
Mm-hmm.
So we were doing a lot of things, and I noticed she didn't like to do anything that we were doing. So what I started doing was taking her to the side or taking her out the room and doing math with her. She knew how to read, she knew how to add, So what I started doing, and I talked to mom about this, and even mom noticed, she was like, yeah, I know. She was like, she knows all of this stuff. I don't know where she learned it from. She was just like, I was like, she's just grasping everything she's learned over time. I was like, we came up with the plan, and I did it with mom, and we were like, we're going to just try to do this with her. And I had mom doing things with her at home also. And we noticed a change in her. But that social emotional was the most important thing that I think we taught her. And I used the class dojo. I used that as my classroom management, and we use PBIS, which is like the green, like doing green choices and red choices, like red stop or green go. I really enforced that in the classroom, and I think that kind of helped her because she was very adamant on green. Like everybody started hating the color red for some reason, but yeah. But I think it really helped her. And over time, we got to see her changing, where she was getting a little bit more attention. And I think that might have helped too, with focusing on other things besides what we were learning in the classroom. She needed more, obviously, because she was in there doing addition. And then I started giving her the job of teaching math to the other kids.
Really? Wow. Okay.
So she would literally stand up in front of the classroom and try to do math problems and like actually teach it to them. And I just let her do it. And
wow.
She went to kindergarten this year that just came up, and her mom still writes me on, she added me on Facebook, and she writes me and keeps me updated on how she's doing.
Wow.
And just recently in December, she shouted me out on a post and made me cry because
wow.
I've never been shouted out before. And I was like, and me and my co-teacher, who was Heather, who was awesome too, and we worked together to get that girl going. And she shouted us out and said that she was being entered into the extended program.
Wow.
Because we gave her that push, we worked hard with her and gave her the materials and the resources she needed to get her going. And I just love that.
Wow.
It made me even more happy that I was like, I'm learning this stuff with them. So
yeah, thank you for that example. Dr. Smith gave a great example last week about a young man who the way to handle the behavior was to find out what he was interested in. And again, so much of what we hear in terms of classroom management is about, some sort of consequences or penalties. And what you did is took your time to find out, just kind of get to know the student better. And as you did that, you found out she's actually academically advanced and, maybe more academic challenges. And so I never really heard a story where letting a student teach becomes a classroom management practice, but that actually helped. Because again, one of the things we'll get into later in the semester is just how helping students with their identity is such a critical thing. And so as she's trying to figure things out, she's got all these skills and abilities that she's really not able to use, according to the traditional, approach. And so she's bored and she's trying to, but then you're helping her get more attention, and you're getting her more attention with academic things. And then you kind of promoted her to this, you're a teacher and we're going to give you this opportunity. And she really wanted to live up to that identity. So that's a great example that it's not just, okay, what do we take away or what do we punish a kid with to get their behavior in order? It's getting to know them better, identifying what they're good at and just feeding into those positive things and then coming up with an outcome like that. Yeah, thank you very much. So Stephanie, what's a success story that you've experienced?
A couple years ago, I had a little boy who was special needs, and he was allowed in the baby room after 2 because he was,
We'll explain why.
okay, he went in, he was a shaken baby syndrome
Mm,
and he was functioning at 1 month old.
mm,
And he was started off in my room at 1 until 3.
mhm,
And he went in with his symptoms, he had seizures, and they started off as doing this one type of formula, and it was getting to where his seizures were 50 times within just at school alone.
wow,
He was having 50 to 100 seizures.
wow.
And we were working on with grandma to see what was the cause of it. And we noticed during the summer with the heat, it was making it worse.
Mm.
And so he went and the doctors were working on him, and we finally figured out that it's the formula that was causing the high seizures. So we went and we stopped that, and it pretty much cut it down to maybe 10 large seizures at school. And then we upped his medicine, and now he only has, I think, 3 a day, if that.
Mm,
But working with grandma, and we were working with the physical therapy, and he was on IFSP, and they would come in and tell me, like working with him, how to work with him. He was one where he would just lay in the crib. That's all he would do. And it was to the point where by the time he went and left my classroom, he would be turning his head and smiling when he hears a ball.
mm,
He had, his vision was 22,000 is what the doctor said. So it wasn't 20/20, but he
mm,
could react to yellow and red. That was so every time we put lights up to him, he'll like smile, and even to this day, I'll go and text grandma and saying happy birthday, and she'll go and text me saying how I'm doing, and he was my little boy. He was
mhm,
my little buddy.
mhm.
So, but, yep. So now he's in a wheelchair, and he's in a inclusion classroom. So
Mhm. Okay, so what would you kind of looking back on your first years as teachers, kind of looking back on that and then kind of where you are now, what advice would you give to these up and coming teachers related to, they encounter challenges their first year, how should they respond? What are some tips to make your first year successful? If there's anything you could do differently, what would it, or look at it differently? Just whatever advice or insights you have related to your first year that you could share with these future teachers, what would some of that advice be?
pick your battles.
Really?
That's a good one. That is.
Go with the flow,
Yeah.
no, I mean, especially with little people, because I'm with, the beginning of the year, there were 12 months to 2. And so I'm more child-led than teacher-led. I have some things where it's teacher-led, but mainly they have free roam. They can explore the classroom on their own, with guidance of the teacher, of course. Just kind of, for little people, just got to be easygoing. Just let it flow. If it doesn't work, it may work with a different group, or it may work tomorrow. Like today was a very emotional day in my room today. Everybody was crying or yelling at each other. And then just kind of, just take deep breaths and calm. And there are good days. Yesterday was a good day. Today, but
Yeah, do that deep breath with the kids. Just do it all
Yeah,
together. Just
breathe
do it all
in.
together. I know that helps.
I know one of the things they're emphasizing is mindfulness and just stopping what you're doing and like say breathing,
Mhm.
or just being aware of how you're feeling and things of that nature. So more and more those are becoming, regular parts of classroom practice. And so I think, that's a positive thing that's, I think, is a benefit, to everybody, that because, we all get situated, we get stressed out, and we need to be aware of kind of how we're feeling so that we can make better decisions versus get caught up in the drama and caught up in the emotions. And next thing you know, something's out of control. So,
And don't be afraid to ask for help or
Yeah.
tap in another person.
mm-hmm,
I struggled with that in the beginning.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's great
But-
advice, because we all need to stop and get
Yeah.
assistance.
And certain students, they for some reason have their person.
Mm-hmm.
But it might work
Uh-huh.
for another part, tap out. Just
Mhm.
and let someone else take over. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's okay.
Especially in my room, I have, well, even coming up, I have a 3-month-old coming in with 18-month-olds. So
wow.
it's a huge gap. And trying to wrangle the 18-month-olds and getting them off the rocking chair, because that's their obsession right now, is getting on top of the rocking chair.
Mhm.
They're exploring.
I know. Drives me nuts.
Dr. Meacham, I'm curious to know how many of your students are early childhood. Are there any early childhood majors or endorsement seekers?
I don't know if you can look on your just do thumbs up. I don't know whether where is this? It says reaction.
I can see
Oh,
most
okay.
every-
Okay.
I see 1, 2.
Okay, see,
I see
okay.
2.
All right,
Okay.
all right.
All right.
And I've
Wonderful.
been told by their director that if you're interested in internship type experiences, he welcomes you at Head Start. So don't hesitate, because again, this is a great place to just get experiences. I think, a lot of times, you want to take classes and just go through the program, but I think the more opportunities you have in actual education settings and learning about them and seeing things firsthand, because I think one of the challenges in teacher education is you're students and you take classes and you get grades, and that's kind of the reward system. But you're going to be teachers, you're going to be in the classroom, and you really need to know that academic knowledge and how to apply it in real situations. So I think the more experience you have just being in those environments, it's really to your professional benefit.
Absolutely.
Just have one other question. When do 'cause we hear a lot about behavior and social emotional learning. When are the times that you tend to address some of the academic issues, their alphabet knowledge, their their number knowledge, those sorts of things? When does that sort of instruction kind of take place?
In the moment.
Oh, in the moment. Okay,
In the
all
moment,
right.
like my little people, like if lately we've been into these little farm animals, and I have certain children that will line them up and they're always facing the same direction. So that's my
Mhm.
opportunity to say, let's count the animals. So we'll just count
Oh,
the
okay,
animals.
all right.
And then, or books, the
Yes.
line, they're all about lining up things, like they'll line up books, and it's like, okay, and then that's our opportunity to talk about, oh, this is a red book, this is a blue book.
Oh,
And
okay.
then, after we're done with the books, let's put the books away, modeling.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of basically, for me, it's in the moment.
Yeah.
I was gonna say mine is a little
Yeah.
different.
Mhm.
Mine's is still in the moment, but mine's is a little bit more structured where I have small groups and stuff too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I focus my small groups on where they are. And so I split them up on what level they are for my assessments, and I go from there. I start off with simple stuff first, like can they identify their name, stuff like that. Do they know
Mm-hmm.
what it looks like? Do they know some of the letters? Like I want to find out what they know first before I can go in and do those small groups. So I try to learn about what they know already. And I usually get a lot of that from assessments in the beginning, or from their parents also, or just watching them be free in the
Mm-hmm.
classroom. Like those first
Mhm.
weeks, they're just learning expectation and rules. So I just watch and see what they already know by just playing in centers.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you find out some stuff and they just know things.
Mm-hmm.
And I go off of there. But most of
Yeah.
my small groups are based off on like what each group needs to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, that's great. My wife is an early childhood educator, and she taught me about, and if you, for you early childhood people, you Google the Reggio approach or YouTube the Reggio approach. It's an early childhood approach out of Italy, and it is just really phenomenal. So what Janelle was talking about in terms of in both Janelle and Sarah, just watching the kids, because they believe that kids are just learning machine. I mean, not machine, but just automatic learners. That's kind of what they do.
mhm.
You know, they get born, then they're trying to figure things out, put things together, make meaning. And so their assessments are, you know, really based upon, you know, watching the kids and watching what and documenting what they already know. And so building off of their knowledge and addressing, you know, their, you know, teacher observations of what the kids know, and then building instruction off of that, you know, is really, you know, a kind of a seminal piece to that. So I think that's a great, you know, great example. Okay.
Like in the baby room, we have this book that they just love. It's called The Color of Their Own. It's the Chameleon book, and there's a couple of them that can actually say the colors in the book because of
Mm-hmm.
we are read it so much.
Repetitive.
Oh, okay.
Repetitive.
So they know their color. Some of them know their colors, and a lot of them know the body parts,
Uh-huh.
like their eyes, their nose, their ears.
Uh-huh.
So, and then they even go and get a Kleenex and wipe their nose.
Uh-huh.
So,
And again, you have conversations based on those observations. Oh, you know that. And then you can, again, all that social interaction, it stimulates their cognition and everything else. So yeah, that's great. Okay. So what, you know, just in conclusion, what has been the most rewarding part of being teachers at Head Start?
Seeing families succeed.
Mhm.
Some of our parents have a hard time of keeping a job,
Mhm.
or, you know, circumstances in their lives. It's just, you know, just seeing them grow themselves along with their,
Mm.
you
Mhm.
know, it's like, hey, all right, you know, I don't know, had a, you know, you got a different car, you got a better house, you
Mhm.
know, you've had your job for a year, you know,
Mhm. Yeah, those are
yeah.
big accomplishments, and then all of that connects to the well-being of the kids. Yeah, I you know, did some work with Habitat for Humanity last year, and that's kind of their approach. You know, it's not just building houses; it's they're aware that okay, now you know the children in the houses have a stable place. They have their own room. All of these different things that you know a lot of you know families can take for granted because of their program. It's not so much okay. Here's this house that's built on the street. It's okay. Here's this child that now has a stable environment, and the changes in the child and children and the family's lives because of that stable environment. And so, you know, those are great examples. Okay.
it's always fun when you're going out into public and you have a kid who that you used to have, and they're like, "Oh,
Mhm.
I'm Miss Stephanie," and they
Yeah.
come up and give you a hug, or the parents talk
Uh-huh.
to you, like, "How are you doing?" And that's what I always like doing.
Yeah. I call that teacher compensation. You know what I mean? I get the most money, but you can see how you've impacted someone's life in a way that almost any other job, you know, really doesn't compare. So that's great. All right. Well, thank you thank you very much. Really appreciate you taking the time to share your experiences and perspectives. And this gives us a lot to what we take, you know, from your perspectives and your experience, that we find children's literature that's going to assist in some of the scenarios that you've shared with us. And so that's kind of what we're doing on our end. So we thank you for your perspectives, and you know, look forward to developing, you know, this collaboration moving forward.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
you.
you. Bye-bye. Have a great rest of the day.
You too.
You too.